You walk away from the conversation and something feels off. You can't name it, but you're the one apologizing again, and you're not even sure what for. You replay it in your head later. You're almost certain they said it, but they looked you dead in the eye and told you it never happened, that you're remembering it wrong, that you're being too sensitive. And they were so calm, so sure, that now you're not sure anymore. Maybe it is you. Maybe you are too much. Maybe you really are the problem. If any part of that landed a little too hard, that quiet, creeping feeling that you've slowly stopped trusting your own mind, then I need you to hear this before we go any further. It might not be you. There may be a pattern running in your life, and it's specifically designed so that you cannot see it from the inside. It's called gaslighting. And today, I'm going to make it visible so you can finally see what's been happening and take your own reality back. Here's the first thing to understand, and it's the reason this is so dangerous. Gaslighting is invisible from the inside by design. If it were obvious, it wouldn't work. So let me show you why even smart, strong, self-aware people miss it completely. The name comes from an old story, a film from the 1940s. In it, a husband slowly manipulates his wife into believing she's losing her mind. One of his tricks is to dim the gas lamps in their home, and then, when she notices the lights getting darker, to insist that nothing has changed, that she's imagining it. Night after night, he makes her doubt what she can see with her own eyes. Eventually, she stops trusting her own perception entirely and starts trusting his version of reality instead. That's the whole game, in one image. Dim the lights so slowly that the person never catches the change, and when they sense something's wrong, convince them the problem is them. That's why you can't see it while you're living it. It never arrives as one big obvious attack you could point to. It comes as 1,000 tiny moments, each one small enough to dismiss, each one making you doubt yourself just a little more. Until one day you realize you don't trust your own memory, your own feelings, your own mind, and you can't even remember when that started. But here's the hopeful part, and the reason to stay with me to the very end. A pattern can be seen, once someone shows you its shape. Over the next few minutes, I'm going to lay out exactly how it works, the specific moves to watch for, what it does to you over time, and most importantly, the concrete steps to get your clarity, your confidence, and your reality back. Because you can. Let's start with what this actually is. Let's define it clearly, because the word gets thrown around a lot, and the real thing is more specific and more serious than just someone disagreed with me. Gaslighting is a form of psychological manipulation where someone, over time, makes you doubt your own memory, your own perception, and ultimately your own sanity. It's not about winning a single argument. It's about something far deeper and more controlling, making you lose faith in your own mind so that they become the authority on what's real. Think about how total that control is. Normally, you navigate the world using your own perceptions, what you saw, what you heard, what you remember, how you feel. That internal compass is how you know up from down, true from false, okay from not okay. Gaslighting attacks that compass directly. Bit by bit, it convinces you that your compass is broken, that you can't trust what you saw, can't trust your memory, can't trust your feelings. And once you no longer trust your own compass, you have to borrow someone else's. You have to ask them what really happened, what you really saw, whether your feelings are even valid. And that is the most complete control one person can have over another. Not control of your behavior, but control of your reality. And it's important to say clearly, this is recognized as a form of emotional abuse. It shows up in romantic relationships, in families, between parents and children, even in workplaces and friendships. The setting changes, but the core move is always the same. Erode your trust in your own mind until you depend on theirs. Here's what makes it so insidious, and we have to be honest about it. The person doing this often isn't a cartoon villain twirling a mustache. Sometimes they're charming, loving, and the gaslighting is woven right in between genuinely good moments, which makes the whole thing even more confusing. That confusion isn't a sign you're not seeing clearly. The confusion is the point. It's the fog the entire tactic depends on. So why do millions of intelligent, capable people get caught in this and not realize it for years? It's not because they're weak or foolish. It's because gaslighting is built almost perfectly to defeat your defenses. There are 4 reasons it stays invisible. The first is that it's gradual. Remember the slowly dimming lamp. If someone walked up to you on day 1 and said, "You're crazy, your memory is garbage, you can't trust yourself," you'd walk away. So it never happens like that. It happens in tiny increments, each one so small you let it slide. Each one shifting your baseline a little, until you've drifted somewhere you would never have agreed to go in a single step. No single moment looks like abuse, only the pattern does, and you can't see a pattern from inside a single moment. The second reason is the cruelest. It attacks the very tool you'd use to detect it. To notice you're being manipulated, you'd rely on your own perception and judgment. But those are exactly what's being undermined. It's like trying to check if your glasses are dirty. By looking through those same glasses, the faculty you'd use to catch the lie is the faculty being corrupted. The third reason is that it's mixed with real connection. This isn't a stranger, it's often someone you love who at other times is kind, fun, affectionate. So your mind refuses to file them under threat. The good moments become evidence that you must be overreacting about the bad ones. The love becomes the camouflage. And the fourth reason is the most powerful of all. Gaslighting makes you the problem. Every road leads back to your flaws. You're too sensitive, too emotional, too forgetful, too dramatic. So instead of examining them, you turn all that scrutiny inward onto yourself. You become so busy trying to fix what's wrong with you that it never occurs to you to question whether anything is wrong with them. The spotlight is bolted to you, and as long as you're the one under investigation, the real source of the problem stays comfortably in the dark. Now let's make the pattern concrete so you can actually recognize it. Gaslighting tends to run on a handful of repeating moves. You won't see all of them every time, but if several of these feel familiar, that's worth paying attention to. The first is flat denial. You bring up something that genuinely happened, and they simply deny it, calmly, completely. I never said that. That never happened. You're making things up. Said with such confidence that you start to wonder if you imagined it. The second is rewriting your memory. Not just denying an event, but supplying a different version. What actually happened was, until their account slowly overwrites yours, and you genuinely can't tell anymore which memory is real. The third is trivializing your feelings. Whenever you're hurt, the hurt itself becomes the problem. You're overreacting. You're too sensitive. It was just a joke. Why do you always do this? Your emotional reaction gets framed as a character flaw, so the thing that caused it never has to be addressed. The fourth is blame shifting, and this one is almost magic to watch. Somehow, every conversation that started with something they did ends with you apologizing. The blame curves through the air and lands back on you, every single time, and you're left confused about how you became the guilty party again. The fifth is the attack on your sanity. The quiet, repeated suggestion that you're unstable, you're crazy, you're paranoid, you need help. Everyone agrees you're being irrational. Drip by drip, it plants the idea that you can't trust your own mind. And the sixth, often the most damaging, is isolation. Slowly cutting you off from the people who might offer you a second opinion, who might look at your situation and say, wait, that's not okay. Because outside perspectives are gaslighting's natural enemy. The more alone you are, the more their version of reality becomes the only version available. Here's the simplest way to feel the pattern, beneath all the specific lines. The signature of gaslighting isn't any one sentence. It's a feeling you live in, chronically confused, constantly apologizing, walking on eggshells, and slowly, quietly losing trust in yourself. If that feeling is your daily weather around a particular person, that feeling is information. Don't dismiss it. Let's talk honestly about the damage, because understanding it is part of getting free, and part of being gentle with yourself about why it was so hard to see. Over time, living inside this pattern reshapes you. You start to second-guess everything. Small decisions become agonizing, because you no longer trust your own judgment. You apologize constantly, reflexively, even when you've done nothing wrong, because you've been trained to assume you're the problem. You become anxious and hyper-vigilant, always scanning, always trying to prevent the next conflict, walking on eggshells in your own life. And slowly, you outsource your reality. You stop trusting your memory of events and start deferring to their account. Because they always seem so certain, and you've learned to doubt yourself. You can lose your confidence, your sense of humor, your spark. The people around you might notice you've become a quieter, smaller, more uncertain version of who you used to be, even if they can't say why. But here is the cruelest twist of all, and you need to hear it without an ounce of shame. Gaslighting often makes the victim defend the person doing it, and distrust the people trying to help. When a friend gently says, "I'm worried about how they treat you," you might feel a surge of protectiveness. You don't understand them. It's not like that. That's not a failure on your part. That's the manipulation working exactly as designed. It has turned your loyalty into another tool against you. So if you've been living some version of this, please hear this clearly. The fact that you couldn't see it does not mean you're weak or stupid or that you should have known better. It means you were up against something engineered, patiently, to be unseeable from the inside. Confusion was the goal. The fog was manufactured. You were not crazy. You were made to feel that way. And now that you can see the shape of it, the most important part begins: getting yourself back. So how do you take back your own mind? You don't do it by winning an argument with them. That's a trap you can't win, and it was never really the point. You do it by quietly rebuilding trust in yourself from the outside in. Here are the steps that actually help. First, and most important, treat that chronic feeling of confusion as evidence, not as proof you're broken. If you constantly feel foggy, anxious, and like you're somehow always the problem around one specific person, that pattern itself is real data. Your gut has been registering something your conscious mind was talked out of. Start by believing it. Second, keep a record outside your own head. Gaslighting relies on your memory being editable, on them being able to rewrite what happened, so write things down. Keep notes, save messages, log events with dates as they happen. A written record can't be gaslit. When the fog rolls in and they tell you it didn't happen, you'll have something solid to stand on, something they can't reach in and change. Third, reconnect with the outside world. This is the antidote to the isolation step. Gaslighting needs you alone, with only their version of reality. So deliberately rebuild contact with people who knew you before, who care about you, who can offer an outside perspective. When you describe a situation to someone safe and they look at you and say, "No, that's not okay, you're not crazy," that single moment can break a spell that's held for years. Fourth, stop trying to make them agree with reality. You will likely never get the validation, the apology, or the admission you're waiting for, and chasing it just keeps you locked in the fog. You don't need their permission to trust your own perception. Your reality is valid whether or not they ever confirm it. And fifth, the foundation under all of it, you are allowed to trust yourself. You are allowed to believe what you saw, to feel what you feel, and to know that your feelings are valid even when someone insists they aren't. Reclaiming that, your simple right to your own mind, is the thing they took and the thing you get to take back. And please hear this last part gently. If what I've described is your daily life, you don't have to untangle it alone. This kind of manipulation is a recognized form of emotional abuse, and talking to someone you trust, a good friend, a counselor, or a professional who understands these patterns, can make an enormous difference. Reaching out isn't weakness. It's often the first real step back into the light. So if you take one thing from this, let it be this. The confusion was never proof that something is wrong with you. So often it's the fingerprint of something being done to you, slowly, quietly, in a way built to be invisible. The moment you can see the pattern, it starts to lose its power. Because the whole thing depended on you never being able to name it. You just named it. You are allowed to trust your own mind. You always were. And if this opened your eyes, the next one goes deeper into the same world. Because next, I'll show you the exact words every manipulator uses. The specific phrases designed to control you in a single sentence. And at least one of them you've almost certainly heard this week. Subscribe, and let's keep pulling these threads. This is Never Heard About.